Last Rites by Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy is, of course, just awesome. I got this book for Christmas from my dad. God, everything this man's been through. You get to hear about how he's getting these surgeries for his spine and his collarbone and the recovery time that it takes and how he just wants to get on tour. And he's going through like physical therapy and like having to go back to get more surgeries. And he goes through so much, and when he does get to perform, it's just, you can tell like that's what makes him so happy. And he explains how basically without Sharon, of course, how would he still be here? Yeah, once I got reading this, I was just in for the ride. Like, it was easy to just keep going through because you feel like you're having that conversation with him, and you don't really know, like, I don't know, you don't realize how long you've been reading because it's just like he's having, like, shooting the shit with you. On 164, I like when he just talks about realizing how when you half-assed in a song, like when you don't give it your all, then you always hear it. He was like, oh yeah, 163. There's a limit to how quickly you can work in the studio, of course. Go too fast and you'll fuck it up. I learned that lesson the hard way with SATO on Diary of a Madman. I was just being lazy the day we recorded SATO. I can't remember why I was so desperate to get out of the studio. Probably just wanted to go back to the Plough, the cozy old English pub right around the corner. So I did a couple of takes and called it a day, even though I was singing a bit behind the riff. What I didn't realize, of course, is when you do a half-arse take like that, every time you hear that song for the rest of your life, you're gonna say to yourself, fuck, should have done a better job of that. Which is very much the case with SATO. I wince every time it comes on. Ever since, I've always been very conscious not to leave the studio too quickly when I'm making an album. I'll say to the producer, I'm here, I ain't going anywhere, and I'll keep doing this until you tell me you've got it. I really liked how he talks about having Lemmy Kilmister's help to write Mama, I'm Coming Home. I love that song, and I guess I'd passed over it in an article knowing that Lemmy was credited on that song. Yeah, when you think of Lemmy Kilmister, like, singing Overkill and the Ace of Spades, you don't picture him writing a song like Mama, I'm Coming Home. And like with the story Ozzy gives, page 195, people underestimated Lemmy though. Because he looked like a biker, people thought he was some kind of yobbo, the kind of guy who'd get into bar brawls or steal your wallet for drug money. But he was this peaceful, educated, highly intelligent man. On that first tour we did with him, he had this little plaid suitcase, and all he had in there was a pair of knickers, a pair of socks, and a pile of books on every subject you could imagine. He loved reading, Lemmy. He was like a walking Encyclopedia Britannica. We got on so well with Motorhead on the British and European legs of the Blizzard of Oz tour, they also joined us for the American shows. When we got to LA, we all went to stay at Don Arden's house, a big Spanish-style mansion at the top of Benedict Canyon. Howard Hughes had once owned it, apparently. Cary Grant lived in the house next door, and it had all these bungalows around for the guests to stay in like a resort. We couldn't get Lemmy out of the library. He'd just stay up all night doing speed and reading books. Dawn was like, "Who the fuck is that caveman in my library? Get him out of my house." Sharon had to explain to him that he was the lead singer of the support band. This part, I think this was the top moment for me on page 198. The first demo I gave him was for Mama, I'm Coming Home. I'd had the melody in my head for years. Then me and Zach had sat down at the piano and worked out the whole song. But I didn't have a clue what the words should be. "Take a listen to this," I said, "and see if anything comes to you." "I just love it." "Okay," said Lemmy, lighting up his 700th fag of the day. "Leave the demo with me, and yeah, I'll take the book. Cheers. When do you need the lyrics?" "As quickly as you can," I said. "Okay, come back in 2 hours." "You're joking." "What, you need 'em faster?" "What? No, fucking hell, Lemmy. How are you gonna write lyrics in just 2 hours? It's not War and Peace, Ozzy. It's a song. Give me 2 hours. "All right, if you say so," I said. I didn't think he was serious. I was fully expecting to come back and find he'd written half a verse, then fucked off to the rainbow. So I left him to it and came back 4 or 5 hours later just to be on the safe side. As I walked in the door, he goes, "Where the fuck have you been?" Then he hands me this sheet of lined paper with his lyrics, carefully written out in longhand, with a couple of fag burns at the top. "Here you go." I looked at what he'd written and my mouth fell open. "Times have changed and times are strange. Here I come, but I ain't the same. Mama, I'm coming home." As anyone who's close to me knows, Mama is one of my pet names for Sharon. And Lemmy had somehow managed to capture the beautiful, fucked up madness of our relationship and our life on the road, which I just tested to breaking point by getting fucked up on booze and pills and attacking her one night with these words. I got chills as I was reading it. It was like he'd been able to peer into my soul. Later on, whenever I sang the song on stage, I'd have the same reaction. I had tears running down my face by the time I got to the end. "Lemmy, I just don't know what to say," I said. "You don't like him?" he shrugged. "That's okay, I wrote 2 other versions." Yeah, and I guess Lemmy had written, "Mom, I'm Coming Home, I Don't Want to Change the World, Desire, and Hellraiser." I love that story. And it's so cool, like, oh my goodness, the things Ozzy has seen. And he talks about seeing Robert Plant jamming with John Bonham. Yeah, page 217. I saw Plant jamming with Bonham. This would have been early 1968. Talk about chills, man. Even then, Bonham's right foot had so much speed and power it sounded like he was firing artillery shells out of a machine gun. A year later, the rest of the world would get to hear it for themselves on Good Times, Bad Times. What he could do with a single bass drum was bordering on physically impossible. And Plant's voice was something else. The range, the wailing he could do, the sheer volume of it. I mean, you could hear the beginnings of Dazed and Confused on that night. He looked the part, too, with his golden curly hair and those tight trousers he wore that probably gave him an extra octave. He and Bonham were taking the blues in this totally new, much heavier direction, and it was one of the most exciting things I'd ever heard. It was cool to hear that one of the songs he really liked as he was growing up was the Kinks' "You Really Got Me." And he's explaining how he had to buy five copies of it because he kept wearing out the grooves on them. And that his dad would get mad for him, like, blasting it through their record player. And I think he like, damaged the speaker. And I mean, Ozzy talking about getting stage fright before he'd go on, like, again, I just, it's something I didn't know about him. I wouldn't imagine him being nervous to go out on stage because he should know how awesome he is. But I liked that he was just honest about these things. He talks about a birthday where I think it's his 70th, and he's having to stay sober, so he's just, yeah, he was turning 70 and he just like didn't really want to party. And he talks about just wishing he could drink, of course, but knowing that he's trying to stay away from it. What I don't understand is why. Why are some people good company when they drink? But when I do it, I'll have a grand old time, but no one else will. Nothing clears a room faster than, oh shit, Ozzy's back on the sauce. The way I look at it, when you're an addict, your basic problem is that you can't handle reality. Your marriage is in trouble, you get shit-faced. You're going broke, you get shit-faced. You've been fucked over or betrayed by someone, you get shit-faced. That's the thing with drugs. They give you an escape from whatever's bugging you in the sober world, or they boost your confidence when you need it, or they help you bury some dark shit in your past. It's all of the above in my case. So page 20, this is where he talks about loving the Kinks song, You Really Got Me. For me, the first proper heavy song was You Really Got Me by the Kinks, which came out the summer I left school. When I first heard that riff, it did something to me. It was like a drug. Listening to it was like having a fucking orgasm. I had to buy the single 5 times because I kept wearing out the grooves. It might have been the first thing I ever got addicted to. It drove my poor old man halfway round the bend. I did eventually stop playing it, but only because I blew out the speaker of his record player. It was one of them polished wood things with a built-in radio that took up about half the living room. And of course there was no way I was ever going to own up to doing that kind of damage. There was just this sudden, very suspicious silence, until eventually he put on one of his Al Jolson records and all that came out was this dribbly, farty noise. And, oh yeah, I did not know that he was fired from Black Sabbath. And he talks about that and how Sharon basically saves him from ruin. Yeah, he says, page 22, after I got fired for being too fucked up, according to them. But that's a story for later. But he starts his solo career in Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, of course, if he would have stayed in Black Sabbath, you would have had more great music from them. But the music that Ozzy made on his own, it's also amazing. So, yeah, he talks about how he would jump into bed like a certain way, like just shoot into the air and fall into the bed. And then he ends up hurting his neck doing that. On page 202, he talks about how he liked his shirt that he would wear. He'd wear this tasseled suede shirt I'd brought home from America. I thought it was the bee's knees, that shirt. And I thought it was sweet. He loved this outfit. And then Keith Moon ends up like teasing him and saying he looks like a hippie. All I remember is being in the canteen of whatever this venue was with all these kids running around. Maybe that's what the event was for, kids' charity. And Moon and Stan Shaw were sitting on the floor, completely arseholed, falling about laughing, ripping the piss out of anyone who walked by. I felt so intimidated by them. They were these huge rock stars and I was still the new kid on the block, you know? And of course, the second I walked in there, my shirt caught Moon's attention. He kept coming up to me and going, "Hey man," in this fake hippie accent. "You look so cool in that shirt, man. You really do, man." Over and over again. He just wouldn't get off my case. And then he ends up just telling him, like, "Will you just fuck off?" Yeah, like, what Ozzy goes through when he's healing from these surgeries and trying to stay sober, and you're just like, he goes through so much just to want to do his thing. More than anything, I just felt so stupid for believing everything the docs had told me. I'd done months of physical therapy by now, but I was still a cripple, still wearing the neck brace, still needing around-the-clock care. Before the surgery, I'd been able to walk like a normal human being. Now I had the posture of fucking Gollum. I just felt so jaded, man. I mean, why the fuck had I agreed to the surgery? I didn't understand it. If anyone had said to me, "Look, Mr. Osbourne, the recovery for this operation could involve weeks in the ICU. And oh, by the way, you might end up more or less paralyzed from the waist down with a numb right arm. And if you complain about anything, we're going to blame it on your Parkinson's," I'd have told him to fuck off. And he talks about how he'd do this certain jump onto the bed. Then, once I was a few steps away from the bed, I did what I always did. Wee, blah blang. Ozzy, what the fuck just happened? I could only gurgle. I was on the floor, absolutely nowhere near anything resembling a bed. To this day, I don't understand how the fuck I could have missed it. The thing's massive. It's like having a Sherman tank parked in the middle of the room. But once I was done with all the gurgling, all I could manage was 3 words. My fucking neck. I wish I could have seen Ozzy perform. He talks about just like how much of a high it really is being on stage. And that's his favorite thing. And reading this, you're just so happy that he did in the end get to perform the shows that he did. Even through everything, through healing, through all those surgeries. If he just wouldn't have jumped into bed, like that was, he talks about at the end how he does his final performance ever, because getting on stage is so hard for him with all the surgeries he's been through, and you can tell he's just so satisfied that he's had the chance to do all he's done. Last Rites by Ozzy Osbourne.